I bought a broken PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to see if I could fix them all. Let's take them apart. This video is sponsored by iFixit. More on them in a minute. So let's start off with the PlayStation 1 and then we'll end with the PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 1 I've never actually even played before, and I've definitely never taken one apart before. So this should be an interesting one. Also, I noticed on the back here, this is actually a refurbished one. It looks like it must have been refurbished by Sony because it says for service, contact your local Sony service center. So that's actually interesting. We'll have to see what the inside looks like once we open this up. But let's get it plugged in and see what exactly might be going on with it. Okay, got it all plugged in. Let's see if it'll power on. Okay, we got a green light, that's good. Let's see if we get anything on the TV, after I actually turn the TV on. Okay, and we do get something on the TV, and we're gonna try WWF Attitude. That doesn't sound good. Oh? It's like screeching. It is actually showing up on the TV though. That can't be normal, that screeching noise. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock. I have no idea how to play this. So that screeching definitely worries me, even though it actually is playing a game. I'm surprised by that. Ah, stop it. Let me move. So this disk drive definitely it'll like freeze the game, so there's something going on with it. I think what we need to do is take a look at the disk drive and the laser and see if we can figure out what's going on, because that screeching noise I feel like can't be normal. So let's get this thing taken apart and have a look at that disk drive and the laser. So if we look at it here, wait for it, it'll do the screeching thing here in a second. So every time it does that, the disk like slows down. Maybe that laser, maybe the rails along the laser just need to be greased or something. So let's let go of that sensor and have a look at the spindle motor. It seems to turn fine, that's for sure. What about this right here? Okay, I think that's what we need to get to. We need to get down to this laser and the rails that the laser slides on so we can have a better look at that. And now it's time for the best part. Let's take this apart. I'm going to be using my trusty iFixit Protect toolkit. This kit is one of their smaller sets, but the thing that I like about it is it's fairly small, but it has like almost everything you could need to take apart almost anything. And then we've got pry tools over here. More pry tools over here, suction cup along with an anti-static wrist strap that I never use. But this is the toolkit that I turn to the most. If I'm taking apart something bigger or something that has larger fasteners, then I usually go for the Manta driver kit. This kit has all of those same bits, except for even more, and a lot of them that are actually larger, and then they have this larger driver as well, so you can get more torque to remove larger fasteners that are potentially screwed down tighter. So I always have this kit on hand as well for the larger fasteners that I might encounter. So I'll be using this smaller driver. I think this is gonna work fine, and then it looks like we've got probably a Phillips 1 or maybe a Phillips 2 on these screws down here. A 1 is a little loose. Let's try a 2. 2 fits in there nice and tight. Yep, perfect. And then one of the cool things about the top cover of that bit set is it can be used as a screw tray. So that's what I'll use it for here. And I'm just gonna put the screws in the same kind of orientation as I'm taking them out. So the 3 screws on the bottom will go down here. And then the 3 screws on the top will go up near the top. Actually, I'll just put them on the top, just like that. These screws don't really matter as far as location or orientation because they're all the same size, but with some things it's super important to get them in the exact same spot, especially with things like iPhones or some other electronics. There might be a screw here. There's a little bit of an indentation on that label, but I don't know for sure, so let's see if this bottom piece will come off. Or maybe it's the top piece. I don't actually know. Like I said, oh, there we go. Never taken one of these apart before, so. Oh, here we go. The inside of this is super clean. It's nice to see an old console like this that is in this good a condition. Okay, and immediately we're just right down to the laser right here. Oh wow, and that just sits on there. Let's remove this flex cable. And I think this cable goes up to it as well. There's no locking tab. So we can just pull on that, and then, wow, that is a super easy laser replacement if that's something we ever needed to do. What I want to do is see if I can figure out what's making that loud screeching noise. I don't know if it's, you know, this metal sliding on this plastic rail, or it could even be these gears in here. Oh, and then look at this. We got a problem with the spindle right here for sure. Oh, look at this. So I wonder if that noise is from this piece of the spindle spinning on this shaft right here. I feel like that could definitely be the problem, because when it would make that kind of like screeching noise, the game would kind of like freeze up. And it could be because the disc was slowing down or something like that, because it was sliding on this shaft right here. So this has to keep the disc spinning at a certain speed, and if this is slipping, it can't really do that. So then that could make it so the disc slows down and makes the game kind of skip or freeze. I think that's what makes sense to me anyway. So we got to find either another disc drive, or maybe we can just replace this piece of the spindle. I'm not really sure. Okay, so in my parts bin, I did find this other PS1. It's a different model. The motor is almost all the way seized up, but this piece looks like it's good on this. So I wonder if we can take just the top of this and put it onto this disk drive and make that one work. This top black piece I think should maybe come off. Oh yeah, that's actually coming off already. Okay, that's good news. Let's see if it'll come all the way off though. Come on. Okay, there we go. It looks like how this works is when you put a game disc in, it pushes on these little balls right here, which then put more pressure on this rubber band thing right here. And that is just press fit onto this motor shaft. So let's see if that will fit onto this one. So this one's fairly loose. It just kind of comes right off. This one is much tighter. Oh yeah, there we go. I think that might be what we need. So then the disc will fit on here like this, just like that. Okay, so let's reinstall this and see if that's all it took to fix it. Okay, screws are in. We can drop this right onto the pegs right there. It's still crazy to me how easy this thing is to take apart and work on. So now we will get the top piece back on, just like that. Put the screws in, then we can test it. Okay, and power. Still power's on, that's good news. Let's put the disc in, and then we will see what happens. It fits on that spindle really nicely. Listen for those noises, those screeching noises. So far, I don't hear any screeching. This is great news. Let's make sure the game starts up. Okay, good so far. Zero screeching. I don't know what controls anything on this. How does the rock keep doing this? You punk. Button smashing should fix it, right? And no, it doesn't fix it. Okay, it did just skip a little bit there, but also I was noticing the game disc is pretty scratched, so that could be all it is. But unfortunately, this is the only game disc I have to use for testing. But given that that screeching is all gone and the rest of the PlayStation 1 seems to work fine, I'm going to move on to the PlayStation 2. Now, looking at the PlayStation 2, it is pretty dirty, but look at this. That is disgusting. That fan is almost totally clogged. So I think before I even test this, I'm going to get this taken apart and clean it out. And then after it's clean, we can give it a test and see if there's anything else wrong. And here we go with my very first PS2 teardown. We've got a warranty sticker over here, so I'm assuming there's a screw over there, but also we've got all these feet. So usually if there's no visible screws and you see feet, there are screws underneath those. So let's try removing these and see if we're right. Yep, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and one under there. Oh, look at that. Bummer, I voided my warranty. And it looks like this case is ready to come apart. Can we just pull this up? Let's try it from the... Oh, there we go. Comes off from the top side. All right, that's actually pretty easy when you do it right. Oh yeah, we got lots of dust in here. So now I think we can get the bottom case off. Maybe? Oh, here we go. Okay. Wow, look at how dirty that is. That is pretty crazy. Let's take a look at the bottom of this. Oh my goodness. Look at this. So, I mean, there's just like so much of it. Just caked on here. Now, I haven't plugged this in. It's just been sitting for who knows how long, so I don't have to worry about this capacitor being charged. I'm still not going to touch the ends on it, but I do know that we should be safe to work on it because it's been just sitting here for a long time. Probably months, maybe even years before I bought it. We need to remove this disk drive so we can have a look under there. So let's get more of this dust removed. Now to get the rest of this clean, I'm just going to remove these 4 screws, this cable, and I think that might be all, and then we can get this power supply removed. Is it all loose? It looks like, yes. Yes, it is. All right, it looks like we need to remove this screw to get the fan out, which will enable us to get the disk drive out, as far as I can tell. I probably should just go ahead and look up an iFixit repair guide. That's what I would recommend anyone doing if they're doing something they're not familiar with. But I also do like the challenge of trying something new and not having a repair guide. And there must be something else holding these on. This one I think must be held on probably by the wires on the other side. Yep. So let's see. Is there a locking tab on this one? Yep. Okay, good. Then that comes out just like that. There we go. Now we can remove this little guy right here. We don't want to pull on the wires too hard because I can pull those right out. Let's try pulling on the wires and the connector. Come on. It's slowly coming out. I just wish it wasn't so hard to get out. Ah, there we go. Whew. Okay, let's try this now. Oh, the fan's just wanting to fall right out now. And we have a Nidec fan. That's interesting because that's the type of fan, one of the types of fans they use in things like PS5s, even now. Again, I'm just going to be trying to get the bulk of the dust off. I will get more of it off, kind of off camera because, like I said, I don't want to get all of this dust just spread all over my workbench and my cameras and stuff like that. So a lot of times I just go spray this off outside. Okay, that's good enough for now. We'll clean it up more in a bit. Now, let's see if we can get this disk drive out. That's out. All right, there we go. It just pulls right up. Now, the disk drive should come out, I think. It's almost got a ribbon cable. Okay, 2 ribbon cables, 3 ribbon cables. We've got one more. Oh, nope, there's a locking tab. So let's release the locking tab. Then it'll just pull right out. There we go. Okay, oh, we got a disc in here. Cool. And also a piece of hair wrapped around the spindle. Oh, more than one. What a bonus. Okay, I see 2 screws on the top here. Hopefully these are the only ones holding this thing down. There's probably some sort of clips or something though. Yep, got some clips back here. So one right over here. Ah! So what do we have? We have Cabela's Dangerous Hunts 2. I don't know anything about that game, but it sounds kind of like a gimmick, honestly. Also, oh, there we go. And the laser is just totally dirty. Okay, I'm guessing this will probably need a new laser, but let's try and clean this. Wow, that was so dirty. I'm gonna use a little canned air to dry that off. There we go. Okay, now to clean the rest of the drive. Wow, just look at that. That's just so nasty. Okay, the disk drive is not perfect, but it's looking pretty good now. One of the things I wanted to make sure and show on the PS2 is the PS logo right here. If you have your console horizontal like this, then the logo looks great like that. If you decide to put it up vertical like this, you can actually just twist the logo, and then the logo is right side up, whether it's vertical or horizontal. That is such a cool feature that PlayStation built into the PS2. I really hope there's no major problems with this because I already have it all the way apart down to the board. So we basically have to put the whole thing all the way back together just to test it. I mean, not all the way, but mostly back together. Okay, we have it all plugged in. We'll power it on the back and press the power button. And we get nothing. No power at all. Okay, well, I guess we start there. And now we got to figure out why it's not powering on. Now with the power supply out, let's start doing some basic checks. I did check to make sure that there was 120 volts coming in, and there is. Let's check and make sure the fuse is good. If it is good, the meter should beep, indicating that there is basically no resistance from this point to this point. And there we go. We have 3 to 2 ohms. So between this point and this point, there's not a broken path. So if this was bad, this part of the fuse would blow, and that would make it so there was not a path for the current to flow from here over to here. Now I did a little bit of research online, and on the Bad Caps forum and the GBA Temp forum, they said that this capacitor and this capacitor are very well-known problems with this power supply. So let's just replace those, and then we can see if it works after that. I've already stolen a capacitor off of this old board. This is for a hoverboard, and so I've stolen a capacitor off of that, but I want to test it and make sure the capacitor is good. So this is the one that I took off. I'm going to move my meter over to this symbol right here, the straight line, and then the curved line right here. That's capacitance. And let's give it a try and see what it shows. Just one probe on one and one probe on the other. We get a reading of 49 microfarads, and this one is rated at 47, so I believe that one is good. Now this capacitor is 22 microfarads, this one is 47 microfarads, this one is 50 volts, and this one is 50 volts. Now on this power supply, at least according to the Bad Caps forum, you can replace this capacitor with one of a much higher microfarad and voltage rating. I don't know if that's true in general on electronics, but in this case it is. So we're going to replace this one with this one. And to do that, we need to start by removing it. So I already have it marked here with black. I'm going to add some flux and then use some solder wick to wick up all the solder. And then that capacitor should essentially just fall right out. So let's just check both of these capacitors and see if they were bad. This one's a 22 microfarad. We get a reading of 22. Okay, so this one actually was good. Now you might be wondering why I didn't check these with it in the board. And you can't actually check capacitance while the capacitor is in circuit. So that is why I didn't do it in the board. And we've got, oh, it's dropping 7.7 microfarads, and it just keeps dropping. This should be a, what do we got here? 33 microfarads. So this one is definitely bad. So that gives me hope maybe that's all that's wrong with this power supply. Let's get it put back into this PS2 and see if it works. Okay, we got it plugged into power. We have it just together enough to test. Let's turn the power on and see if we get a light over here. Come on. Oh, red light. That's what I'm talking about. And if we power it on, we get the green light. So this PS2 is powering on, the fan's working great, it's spinning up the disc is playing on the screen, so it's safe to say the PS2 is all fixed. Let's move on to the PS3 and see if we can figure out that one. I don't see anything too obvious going on with it. So let's plug it in and see what happens. It looks like we have a red light over here, just very faint, but we do have a red light. Okay, we got a beep. Okay, nothing at all on the screen. Let's try it with an HDMI cable. Okay, HDMI. Oh, there we go. Okay, let's try it with a game. Never played it. Let's put it in and see what happens. Oh, so it's not wanting to spin up. Or is it? And it's actually playing the game even. I think when I bought this, it said it had like a HDMI problem. Also, I don't know if the PS5 controller works on these, but no, it doesn't. Okay, DualShock 4 works just fine. Whoa, there we go. Okay, let's go off the edge. Woo! Okay, so the game is also clearly working. I can't find anything wrong with this PS3. I think when I bought it, it said that the HDMI port was faulty, but even when I wiggle the cable, everything works fine. Now, I bought this PS3 off of eBay, and many times on eBay, you get something in worse condition than you thought it was gonna be, but every once in a while you get something like this that's in way better condition. In fact, this one is working when I bought it for parts. So I always love it when that happens. That kind of helps to counteract the times when you get something and it's not so great. Now, let's move on to the PS4 and see if we can figure out what's wrong with that one. So this PS4, you might actually recognize, this is the PS4 that Robert did a cleaning video on, and then I tried to start it up and it wouldn't show anything on the TV. And when I look into the HDMI port, I don't see any initial issues. I'm gonna plug this in one more time and just test it again. Make sure we get a white light. Blue so far. Okay, and it does go to the white light, and we have nothing on the screen. So all we can do now is take it apart and have a look at the HDMI system. Now, if you saw the video where Robert cleaned this PS4, neither of us actually tested the PS4 before he did his video. So in the video where he cleaned it and I tried to start it up at the end and it didn't turn on, I kind of made it sound like it was his fault when in reality, we don't know whether it worked or not before he even took it apart. And honestly, most likely it didn't. I bought this, I think, off of Goodwill, but I don't even remember for sure. But I probably bought it as salvage, so it probably didn't even work before he even started the cleaning. But the nice thing about this one is looking inside of it, it's gonna be nice and clean. We don't usually get to work on consoles that are really clean like this one on my channel. Okay, and now we can get to the motherboard. I mean, let's face it probably just doesn't have the perfect amount of thermal paste. Let's have a closer look at this HDMI port. And right away I see a problem. I don't know for sure if this is the only problem, but this pin has been pushed through this HDMI port. This is like one of the original styles of HDMI ports, and these are horrible. They had tons of problems with them because the pins can just push right out the back. So the first thing we're gonna do is replace this with a much better HDMI port. In order to replace this HDMI port, I'm gonna heat it from the bottom. And as I heat it, you'll see this solder turn shiny on all of these mounting pins. And once it's ready, it's just gonna fall right out the bottom. And then we'll come in with the new port and put the new port up into those mounting holes and hold it there while the solder solidifies. And there we go. Now I can flip it over and check the 19 pins on the back side. And now with this port soldered on, initially it all looks great, but these pins aren't actually soldered down all the way. So I need to come through with my tiny soldering iron, my micro pencil, and solder these all down. And once we're done with that, this will be ready to test. I'm gonna put some flux on these pins first. That will just help the solder flow nicely. And now all there is left to do is clean this all up and put it in and test it. And it's all back together. Let's see what happens when we try to turn it on. We get the blue light, good. But do we get anything on the screen? Oh, black screen, good. Yeah, we got the PlayStation logo. That means this PS4's HDMI system is all fixed. Let's move on to the final PlayStation, the PlayStation 5. So far we've fixed the PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4. Let's see if we can fix all the PlayStations by fixing this PS5. Of course you need to update. Now this PS5, I know what's wrong with it. I bought it from a viewer who tried to fix the HDMI port himself. That didn't go too well, so he wanted to sell it to me so I could use it in a video. I'm not sure what to expect, but a lot of times when someone tries to replace the HDMI port, but has no experience and messes it up, it can get pretty bad. So let's get down to this motherboard and see how bad it is. So that worries me a little bit. This piece of metal mesh was just squished onto the board. This is supposed to go over here. Also, this connector looks pretty much destroyed, which means the ribbon cable probably is as well. No, oh, yeah, it's not great. Might need to replace that. Okay, so far, I can definitely see someone tried to fix that HDMI port. Also, it's missing the clamp. That's awkward. I'm trying to see if it's missing any other components on the board. I don't see anything right offhand, but it always worries me with this kind of situation where somebody tried to fix it themselves. And I mean, the fact that it's missing screws and the clamp, that makes me wonder how careful they were replacing the port. But let's find out by removing the board, if I can get it out. This is like stuck down. I feel like it should not be stuck down that much. Okay. Okay, that's actually fine. This is one of the early models that had a bunch of this on here. Also, look at this dry spot on the heatsink and the APU. We definitely need to deal with that. But we're here to take a look at this HDMI port first. Let's get it under a microscope and have a look. And looking under the microscope, we can see exactly what the problem is. These pins are not soldered down. So that is the first problem. The second problem is this trace could be broken right here. I can't quite tell. It looks like all of these pins are loose. So that is the main problem we have going on here. It's kind of a bummer because other than that, this actually doesn't look too bad. So we can see that those pins aren't fully down on the board either, so it needs to be pushed down some. Also, the other problem is these mounting posts right here are not soldered onto the board, so that's definitely a problem too. But I would say out of a lot of DIY repair fails that I've seen, this really isn't too bad, and I think they probably almost had it. All that being said though, I'm gonna actually just remove this port because you can see it is melted and there may be other problems with it. So I'm gonna remove it, put on a brand new port, and then we'll see if that's all it takes to fix this one. Now this process of replacing the HDMI port on the PS5 is essentially exactly the same as on the PS4. I'm just gonna heat up this old port until it essentially just falls out the bottom, and then I'll install the brand new port and then turn it over and make sure all the 19 small pins are soldered on. Okay, and this actually looks really good. I haven't come through to resolder these, and they're actually all soldered on really nicely. This soldering job kind of makes up for that Xbox Series X I fixed, the Halo Edition one, if you saw that video. That was not my best work. Now, I want to add a little bit of solder right down here to make sure that's a good connection down there. So we'll flux it up first, just like that. Then I'm going to come in with my small iron and add a little bit of solder there, and that should help strengthen that joint. Okay, and that looks good. I'm going to clean it up. Next, let's get to the liquid metal. So here we are. I'm actually going to clean this liquid metal up just using a regular Q-tip, and then clean off the APU, and then reapply some liquid metal to it. Once this oxidizes, sometimes it's hard to get this APU clean, so use this method to get it nice and clean, and then we can reapply the liquid metal. And I'm going to come through with the syringe that came with the liquid metal and try and suck up any of this excess that's over here. Basically anywhere that it shouldn't necessarily be. I'm going to try and get it out of, and then we will put it on the APU. Okay. Now these little black applicators, they come with the liquid metal package. So we're we're just gonna spread this on here, rub it into the APU, and that's what it should look like. We'll do that with these other two right here. There we go. And that's what it's supposed to look like instead of having a dry spot on it. I am gonna come through and add a little bit more there. Let's clean up the heatsink, and then this will be ready to put back together. So now I'm just gonna add a little bit of liquid metal onto the heatsink. A little more. Okay, that should be enough. And then rub it in with the applicator. Make sure we get all of that oxidation removed. There we go. That's looking better. Got a little bit of oxidation up here. Okay, looking good. I'm gonna add a little bit more just because these PS5s take a lot. That should be enough. And now we can put this board back in to the shell and start the reassembly. I am actually gonna replace this ribbon cable as well because two of the little traces on it are not very good. In fact, I'm not sure it would even make a good connection there. So let's just replace that since I do have one here. There's the new one. Some of the ears on this one aren't the best, but the rest of it is fine, so we can deal with that. There we go. Okay. Now this back on, and then this goes down in here. And then just these three screws, and we'll be done with that one. So now we can reinstall this. Then the power supply. There we go. And now we can continue on with our reassembly. We've got the PS5 all plugged in. Let's see if it's gonna start up. Okay, I hear a fan. We got a blue light, nothing on the screen. Oh, black screen, come on. Yes! We have a screen. After repair, okay, so it's repairing the storage. That's normal after it's gone through something like this has gone through. Come on, let's see that PS logo. That's what I'm talking about. So we were able to fix a PS1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you like this type of video, you'll probably like the video where I tried to fix all of the colors of the original Game Boy Play It Loud edition. I'll put a link for that video up on your screen now. Be sure to check out iFixit for all your electronic repair parts and tools. Check out ifixit.com/TronicsFix. If you're going to VidCon in Anaheim in 2023, be sure to check out the BW100 booth because I'll be there hanging out and I'd love to see you. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have a good one.